Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here for the first time, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Hannah, and on this channel I post a lot of content about multi-level marketing companies, specifically the downsides of them, the harmful nature, the predatory business tactics, and essentially explaining all the reasons that you shouldn't get involved with them. So if that content does interest you, I always have a playlist linked right here at the beginning of my videos and in the description box of all of my videos. My big, hefty, super bingeable anti-MLM playlist, over 150 videos on there at this time. And if you find this content valuable, things like liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing to the channel, all those things really help push them out to a wider audience, which ultimately is really great for the anti-MLM movement and spreading the word about the harmful nature of these companies. For today's video, as I'm sure you already know, we have another horror stories video. These are the personal experiences that people have had with MLM companies, have had with people involved with the companies. Maybe they were a rep for these companies themselves. All those kinds of stories are great. People write out their experiences, they send them to me, and I choose a few to read for a video. So with that being said, if you have your own story, it's really easy to send it in. The instructions for how to do that are in the description box below. And last thing before we read these stories, I'm so excited to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Paired. Paired is an app that you can use with your partner to improve communication, stay connected, and deepen your intimacy as a couple. This is actually an app that my husband AJ and I downloaded way back in December of 2021. We've been using it for over a year now, which is why I was really excited when Paired reached out to work with me, because I was like, yes, I love this app. I will scream it from the rooftops. The Paired app is a fun and easy way to take care of your relationship through daily questions and quizzes. And the coolest part to me is that you can't see how your partner responded until you have both submitted your answers. And it's really interesting to see how you each approach the question and how you may have answered it a little bit differently or exactly the same in some cases. And it makes for some really meaningful conversations. In fact, AJ and I have kind of gotten in the routine of debriefing our answers every night before bed, because sometimes he won't respond in the way that I expected him to, or I'll bring up an interesting thought and he has follow-up questions or whatever. And it gives us that prompt to help us discuss different aspects of our relationship that we wouldn't have otherwise thought to discuss. It's great for new couples who are just learning about each other, but it's also good for couples that have been together for years, but they're still discovering new things about each other thanks to the Paired prompts. And the timing of this video is kind of perfect because Valentine's Day is coming up, and personally I feel like Valentine's Day can tend to be a little over commercialized, and there's just so much pressure to get your partner a meaningful gift. But the first things that come to mind are like a bouquet of flowers or a box of chocolates, which, don't get me wrong, those are lovely, but they're not very personal. So may I suggest, get your partner a Paired subscription this year. Give the gift of your presence rather than a present. It's such a meaningful gift to show your partner that you care, and you can use it to connect with one another all year long. If you'd like to give your partner a personal, meaningful Valentine's Day gift this year, you can click the link in the description box below to get 25% off Paired Premium. Thanks again, Paired, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's read some horror stories. This story says, "Hi, I love all the anti-MLM content you produce, and I've been subscribed for a while now. Every time I hear the stories you read, I hear/see myself in a lot of them. The company names might be different, but the practices and procedures are always the same. Culty, shady, and predatory." I think that's a very important thing to point out. A person who's in an MLM company themselves oftentimes can see a lot of similarities between their experiences and the experiences of people in other MLMs as well. It's not limited to just one company. This is an industry-wide thing. A lot of these themes cross the barriers of different companies. It's a common theme that runs throughout all of them. That's why I don't really believe it when somebody says, "Oh, my company's different," or "We're better over here," or "We do things differently." I've seen too much evidence to know that that's not really true. People tend to have very similar experiences regardless of what company they're in. This is really, really long, and I hope it's worth the read. Much love, and please keep doing what you're doing. I'd also like to remain anonymous if that's okay. Thanks for considering my story. I was recruited into Arbonne in 2011 by my best friend and was in for about 3 years. This was before their class action lawsuit. It should be noted our main upline, aka the head honcho at the top of the pyramid, aka National Vice President, is in Canada. Their downline recruited my bestie, who lived in an entirely different country, which I won't name to protect their privacy, and then my bestie recruited me, who lives in the United States. That right there should have been a red flag, and it kind of was at first. I thought it was weird that someone in Canada had someone in another country under them, and that I was able to join under someone who wasn't even in the same country as me. I said no several times. I saw them promoting stuff on Facebook constantly, and it just seemed way too cringe. But no matter what objections I had, there was always always an answer, always a pushback. So I eventually agreed to hear the business pitch. That was my first mistake. Before I knew it, the promises of I'm going to the top with or without you, but I want you to come with me had me going. Climbing the ranks of the company seemed so incredibly easy as it was pitched to me in this way. It seemed like all I have to do is share what products I'm using, get people to buy stuff, and make a commission. It seemed like if I sold enough volume, I would make money. Never the case, is it? It's so hard to sell a volume of product large enough to make significant money from it. Certainly that amount of money is not going to equate to what you would make at a full-time job or something. You cannot make a full-time income in an MLM company if you just sell the products. That's pretty much a fact. Your commissions are so low, and think of how large your customer pool would have to be to sustain a full-time income for yourself just based on that commission that you're getting from product sales. Once I joined, I was encouraged to spend $2,000 as part of the business order sign up so that I would be prepared with all the inventory I would need. I was told to buy 4 starter kits that consisted of face wash, toner, serum, moisturizer, and night cream. These kits were then meant to be loaned out to various potential clients so that they could try the products for a few days and then give them back. The hope is that they will fall magically in love and buy the products after trying full-size bottles for X amount of time. Ew. You were encouraged to buy 4 different starter kits, but not necessarily to use the product yourself, but to give them out to people that you know personally so that they can try them firsthand. I feel like I've heard of something similar being encouraged in Monat, where they share the shampoo and they kind of pass it around and all use it. Gross. But I think this is the first time that you were encouraged to buy 4 of the same starter kit, like 4 times the startup money you're spending here. And like you said, ew, we're talking about skincare products here that we are just like sharing communally. You don't know where they've been or how many other people have used them before they got to you. And also, I feel like trying the products for a few days is not necessarily enough time to know if these products work well for you or not. That might be enough time for you to realize that you have a bad reaction to them and that they're not going to work for you. But especially with something like skincare, you're not going to get immediate results that you can see from day 1 to day 4 or whatever. So I see the point of letting people try them firsthand, but also 4 days is not enough time. And that's pretty gross that you're sharing the same product as God knows how many other people. Red flag number 1, lack of hygiene. I imagined these bottles sitting around in people's bathrooms and was completely grossed out. I disinfected the outsides and the nozzles, but it was still nasty seeming. Imagine everyone taking home tester bottles at a store and bringing them back when they're done testing, only for those same bottles to be taken home by another customer. Gross, gross, gross. Needless to say, I only did this a few times because it was embarrassing, unprofessional, and made me the customer rather than the seller. More on that later when I got my 1099 and had to do taxes. It's not like they don't have actual samples to give out, so this whole loan a kit thing seemed really stupid to me, but it was lucrative for the upline. You see, actual sample-sized products that were available for purchase on the website had 0 PV. The person above me and the person above them made nothing off of samples, so of course we used full-size products as samples. This turned out to be something unique to our upline, and not everyone in Arbonne promoted this method. Okay, that's good at least, because I was gonna say I've never heard of this happening before, and you make a great point about the PV. PV stands for personal volume points, and that's a certain number of points assigned to a certain product, and that's the point system that is used to fulfill quotas for you and your upline. So you have monthly PV requirements that you have to hit, and them as your uplines are relying on you to hit your PV goals because that impacts them and their goals because everyone is stacked on top of each other. So this makes perfect sense to me that they wouldn't want you to go buy actual sample size products because there's no PV value associated with that. They don't get any credit for that. That doesn't apply towards their monthly quotas that they have to fill to keep their ranks. So rather than encouraging you to do the sanitary thing and buy samples to give out to customers, they want you to buy the full size ones so that they get the PV, they get the credit, they get their quotas fulfilled at the expense of sanitation and doing what's right, basically. As a new Arbonne member, we were fear-mongered on all kinds of ingredients: parabens, phthalates, paraffins, mineral oil, fragrance, etc. And we were told to take a big trash bag and throw away all of our non-Arbonne products and do a complete switch on everything. Surprise, surprise. I'm talking hair care, body care, shower stuff, toothpaste, deodorant. Theirs was trash. Supplements, protein powders, whatever they had, we needed to use it. And I did. I actually did it. I threw away thousands of dollars worth of non-Arbonne products. Just thinking about it makes my stomach turn. They had me hook, line, and sinker, and I trusted my best friend. Why would they steer me wrong? I must also mention all of their skincare products absolutely ravaged my skin. I have really bad acne-prone skin, and Arbonne's products are really not ideal for that. The adorable thing is that I was promised it would help my skin. I probably shouldn't have believed people that I knew had nothing to do with dermatology. Suddenly, my life was nothing but Zoom calls, useless pep talks, and self-help books, all of which produced zero sales. I contacted everyone I knew, hosted parties, got a ton of people interested, but when it came to the pricing and quality of the products, that's when everyone would back out and be like, I can't afford this, and of course I respected that. I agreed, the products were way too expensive. This brings me to red flag number 2, toxic positivity. No matter how rough things were or how badly I was doing in the business, I was told to stay the course. Don't give up. Keep making my uplines rich, essentially. So I did, and one day I noticed there was a discrepancy in an ingredient. According to Arbonne, retinol palmitate, I'm surely butchering that name, is highly toxic. So when I saw that it was in one of our products, I brought it to the attention of my upline through one of the Facebook groups we were in. My post was immediately deleted, and the head honcho, she is still thriving at the top of Arbonne to this day, I've checked recently, sent me a DM saying that I was being negative. I asked about the discrepancy, and she said she would look into it. So being responsible and doing my due diligence was being negative. From that day forward, I was treated very differently. It probably didn't help that I never, not even once, went to their annual cult conventions. I wasn't willing to spend thousands of dollars for basically an in-person version of the relentless Zoom calls and repetitive, nonsensical brainwash babbling that I was tired of listening to. I was told repeatedly that my business was failing because I refused to go to said cult conventions. I failed to see how hanging out with other cult members would help my sales. I needed more cold market people, not other people like me. I think we should normalize calling MLM conventions cult conventions, because honestly, the whole point of it is to gather everyone in the company together. You spend a lot of your own money to buy tickets and get yourself there, first of all. And then you spend, 2-3 days over the course of a weekend having all of this motivational self-help crap spewed at you to give you the impression that your success is within your control. And if you just want it bad enough and you just work hard enough that it will come to you. There's lights, there's music, there's motivational speakers. Sometimes they launch new products. There's a lot of hype and excitement at these things. And in my opinion, it's all meant to distract from what's really going on, which is that nobody is being successful. Nobody is making a significant amount of money. Everybody is struggling, but they praise and they reward and they highlight these people at the top of the company. And don't you want to be like them? And look at what's possible through our opportunity. And they are living proof of that. And that can be you one day. And it's just so culty and brainwashy because it's all a facade. Mathematically, not everyone in that arena who attends that conference is gonna get to that top position. You cannot do it. It is impossible, but they try and give you the impression that it's not. Brainwashing, cult conventions, let's normalize calling them that. Some other fun highlights. When I said I was thinking of leaving, the person who recruited my bestie hopped on a quick guilt Zoom call with me and proceeded to tell me that parabens were the reason her father passed away from cancer. It was really bizarre, and I wish to God I was making this up. Throughout this experience, I realized there were plenty of other way more affordable paraben-free options out there. Anyway, that person is no longer with Arbonne. They got the car, meaning that they made it to regional vice president, but they obviously lost rank at some point and left. To wrap things up, I basically was able to convince my bestie that we were in a pyramid scheme. She didn't hold it against me that I left, and I didn't judge her for staying in a little bit longer. We're still great friends to this day, and I think this may be one of the rare occasions where a friendship wasn't ruined by an MLM. The horror story part comes in here. There's more? You haven't told us the horror story yet? The horror story part comes in here. I basically lost over $5,000 due to this MLM. I wasn't sent a 1099 form for any sales commissions made. Maybe I didn't make enough, but when I signed up my first recruit, that's when they sent one. Very bizarre. The tax agent basically said that all of my purchases up to that point had been considered income and I had to pay taxes on it. She said it was very shady and that I should hire a lawyer to look into things further. I shrugged shrugged it off, in large part due to wanting to just be over with it and also becoming busy at an actual job. And I never heard about the class action lawsuit against Arbonne and never got to be a part of it. I did bring up the shady taxation to my upline, but because nobody was based in the US, they got to cutely say, wow, that's so crazy. They don't do that to us here. So that was convenient. They all deleted me from social media once I left. It hurt a little because the person who recruited my bestie really gave off the vibes that she was so genuine and loved talking to me, etc. For whatever reason, they still like my bestie and have her on all of their Facebooks, even though she left ages ago too. I was horrified to lose that much money, all under the guise that I was investing in my future and that it would all pay off if I just stayed the course. I truly wish this unethical business model was banned from the US. What a great story with so many problematic components in it. I'm not happy that this happened to you, but I'm so glad that you wrote this out because it confirms so many of the things that we talk about on this channel, and it compiles so many of those experiences into one story. I'm also confused on this tax situation, but the fact that your tax agent was like, this is shady, you should contact a lawyer, that speaks volumes in my opinion. And I think an important part of your story is that sometimes people who are in MLMs, they don't really compare their expenses and taxes versus their earnings. And I feel like if that was more common practice for people to keep good books and have a spreadsheet somewhere of everything they're spending versus what's coming in, the numbers are very black and white and people would be able to see pretty clearly that they're not making much money, if any at all. And this is kind of related to my own experience where I used to have a reselling business on the Poshmark app. So what I would do is I'd go to thrift stores, I'd find things that were of value and I would flip them. I would buy them for $5 and I'd resell them for however much they were worth. And in the beginning, it's really exciting and exhilarating. Like, oh sweet, I sold this item for $50. And it's cool to see that $50 hit your bank account and think to yourself, I just made $50. But then once you start considering, hold on, wait a second, what did I pay for that item? What was the cost of goods? Oh, I paid $10 for it and then I sold it for $50. So really I only made $40, but then I needed my poly mailers, I needed my shipping tape, I needed my shipping labels. I liked to include thank you cards, like those are all shipping supplies now that are included and cutting into my costs. And then Poshmark as a platform takes a cut of that as well. So there's all these different aspects kind of cutting into your bottom line and what you're actually making at the end of it all. And once you factor that in and you look at your spreadsheet, you go, oh, okay, I really only made $22 on this sale or whatever it is. It's sold for $50, but I'm only taking home $22 in profit. And that is something that I don't think people in MLMs are really encouraged to do or trained to do or know how to do or willing to do, because if they do it, then they have to face the fact that they're not making any money, and that's scary. And how this ties into your story is that come tax season, you now have to pay a portion of that back in taxes as well, even further cutting into your bottom line. And for some people, that means that they're in the negative now and they're actually owing money because they were a part of their MLM. So I really appreciate your story and how candid you were and how crazy all these experiences were. And the thing I want to leave people with here is that if you are in an MLM or if you have a small business or you resell on Poshmark or whatever, just please make sure you're keeping good books and you have a true, genuine understanding of what it is you're actually making. Because my hunch is that if people did that from the beginning, they wouldn't stick it out in their MLMs as long as they are, because they would see what's really going on a lot sooner. This story says, hi Hannah, I have no idea how I ran across your YouTube channel, but I'm so glad I did. I've been anti-MLM for many years, so I've loved listening to your MLM horror stories while I do household chores. I've been married 24 years. Approximately 23 years ago, when we'd only been married a year or so, my husband and I realized we needed to get life insurance to financially protect one another should the unthinkable happen. Insurance companies do some minor health testing when you apply for any significant amount. My husband's test kept coming back with concerning results. After a few doctor's visits and a kidney biopsy, we learned that my husband has IgA nephropathy. I am so sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, which is a form of kidney disease, and he was uninsurable. Our first trip to his new nephrologist's office was terrifying. As an ambulance was parked out front, a patient was being loaded onto a gurney in the lobby, and the room smelled like death. While an obviously bad day for that patient, the experience was an important one for my husband, as he realized that day how serious kidney disease really is. As a young wife, I was scared. My husband had just been diagnosed with a disease that meant no one would insure him because he might die, which is kind of the point of life insurance, but whatever. I threw myself into learning more about it and what sort of lifestyle changes we should make. I'm pleased to say that all these years later, he is still doing well and his kidney function function has been fairly stable. One day, not long after diagnosis, I came home to a message on our answering machine. It was from a woman from our church who said that she had heard my husband was sick. She said that she didn't know what was wrong with him, but she was selling supplements that she just knew would help with whatever the problem was. Give her a call if I was interested. I'm sorry, how can you know for a fact that whatever pills you're selling are going to be a good solution to an unknown condition? She doesn't even know what your husband is dealing with. She has no sense for what kind of condition this is or the severity of it. So how is she promising and saying that she just knows that her MLM supplements are gonna be a good thing for him to take? Red flags all around, because that just tells you that she assumes her pills are a cure-all for literally anything. Like, it doesn't matter what condition you're about to tell me he has, I have the pill for you. Absolutely insane. If all she knows is that your husband is quote unquote sick, that could mean anything from like he has the common cold to he has terminal cancer, he has a week to live. There is not a chance that whatever pill she's trying to sell you has the ability to treat everything in between on that spectrum. Crazy. I was livid, like to the point that I later thanked God that I wasn't at home when she called because I knew I would have gone off on her. She was a very sweet lady who was a stay-at-home mom to 5 kids, and I don't doubt that money was tight. She probably thought she really was helping people, but to cold call people not knowing what they're actually dealing with and claiming that your scammy supplements can help is irresponsible. The thing about kidney disease is that everything you put into your body is processed through the kidneys. Certain vitamins and plenty of medications can cause further damage to the kidneys. Kidney patients have to be vigilant about what goes into their bodies. So to offer someone what is likely massive doses of unregulated supplements to help them without even knowing what's going on is beyond stupid. He needed actual medical care, not overpriced MLM crap. I have no idea what the company was, and I never called her back or talked to her about this. Thankfully, she didn't press the issue. Fast forward many years, and my husband and I were unexpectedly blessed with a late-in-life pregnancy. Our kid is awesome, but he ended up being diagnosed with a condition involving one of his internal organs, and it caused a lot of stress for all of us. He was under the care of a specialist, but it was still problematic. Cue the Hun. A college friend who had contacted me before about Plexus, always beginning with a seemingly caring, "How are you doing?" kind of message, sent me a message on Facebook letting me know she'd seen my posts about our struggles with our son's health. She would love to send me a sample of some Plexus products to try on him. She was using it with her own child who was also going through a health crisis. She had seen great improvement in her child with this product. This is where I should mention that our children had very different health issues. Both were serious, but they had nothing whatsoever in common. Also, her child was a teenager, and mine was probably 5 at the time. Major difference in body sizes and tolerance levels. I did look up the product online as I was curious to know what it was and what it supposedly did, besides cure my son's issue with an internal organ. Eye roll. I don't recall what the product was, but I definitely remember seeing that it was not recommended for anyone under 18. I was pretty angry, to be honest, but I held back and only sent a very simple no thank you. Thankfully, I think she realized that I was a lost cause in Plexus recruiting. I just hate to hear that this very similar thing happened to you many years apart, one dealing with your husband's health condition and the other dealing with your son's health condition. But in both cases, an MLM rep is coming to you saying that they have a product to treat or cure whatever that condition is without any evidence or knowing what the condition is. It's so frustrating. And what does that tell us about the industry as a whole? These are 2 different people, 2 different companies, 2 different supplements that they're trying to sell you with a massive time gap between them. And what this tells me is that these sales strategies and tactics, they cross companies, they cross time. And this isn't just one bad apple in one company. This is a common theme that we are seeing across the industry of multi-level marketing as a whole and how their members are trained. 6 years ago, I was so fed up with all the MLM messages I was receiving from people that I ended up posting this on my timeline on Facebook. So here's what your Facebook post said. What I'm about to say may offend some people. I apologize in advance, but I feel like this needs to be said. If we are on social media together, it's because we're friends or friendly acquaintances. I'm not here with you so that you can sell me stuff or try to use me to earn free products. Maybe it's because Christmas is approaching, but the sales pitches have ramped up. In just the last week, I've received 4 invitations to Usborne parties. 4! There have been several other party invitations as well, so here it goes. My kitchen is fully stocked stocked. In fact, I probably have too much. I don't want to decorate my nails with stickers. I'm 42, not 12. My makeup routine is set, as is cleansing and moisturization. If I want to make a change, I'll seek it out. My house cleaning routine and tools are also firmly in place. I use one of the greatest all-purpose cleaners on the market. If you want to know what it is and where to buy it, ask me. I'll happily tell you. I don't get a single thing from sharing that info with you. I just like the stuff. You don't even want to know my opinion on these companies that sell overpriced essential oils with wild, unproven claims of cures. Ladies, men don't do this to each other. No one ever contacts my husband to try and sell him this stuff. Don't try to make money off of me while pretending to make it social. Want to spend time with me? Invite me over. Ask to meet at Sonic during happy hour. You are welcome in my home. I would love the company. Just stop trying to undermine my family's budget to pad your own. I'm pleased to report that after I posted that, I've rarely been contacted again by Huns. Thanks for your amazing, informative, and entertaining videos. You're doing important work. Anne-Marie. My goodness. I mean, I kind of love this Facebook post, honestly. It definitely has a blunt and forthcoming approach to it, but sometimes I guess that's what you need to do. Look, if you're at the end of your rope and you've been pitched for all these MLMs and you're broken down and exhausted, maybe it is worth your time to post this PSA to your Facebook page and just say, stop pitching me these things for all of these reasons, okay? I'm over it. Don't come at me with it anymore. It's sad that people are pestering you and pitching you to a degree where you feel like you have to go this far and post it publicly, but when all else fails, maybe that is what we have to do in some cases. Post your position publicly, be very forthcoming that you're not interested, and luckily it sounds like people have respected that boundary that you've put up. I'm sorry that you felt pushed to have to make this kind of post. That really does speak to probably how much you were being harassed about MLMs, but it does appear to have been effective, so at least that's good. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. This story says, hello Hannah, I found your channel a few months ago, and I think at this point I've watched almost every one of your videos, especially the MLM related ones. Like many people who write in, I knew about the big MLMs like Avon and Tupperware, but never really knew how they functioned or of their popularity. My story is less a horror story and more of an annoyance/disappointment. I wanted to write in because I don't recall hearing a story quite like this on your channel. I recently moved across the country to California from Atlanta with my partner, away from all of my family and friends. I am Black, and as you know, Atlanta is a city with a very large Black population. It's been hard adjusting to my new city where less than 1% of the population shares my racial background. I realized as we were coming out of the pandemic that I was lonely and needed friends, so I decided to try Bumble BFF as a way to find other women my age who are also looking for companionship. I've always had a hard time finding friends because of my social anxiety, and I never went anywhere but work and home. I figured online friend finding would be the simplest strategy for someone like me. I matched with a few women, but the conversations never really went past 3 or 4 exchanges. That was until I met Rose, not her real name. I feel like I can see this coming a mile away that Rose is likely an MLM hun, and she's using Bumble BFF to connect with other women her age to pitch them her opportunity and recruit them into her downline. Just a hunch I have, you know. Rose and I had a good back and forth going. I got excited because I thought I might finally be making a buddy. We talked about the normal things like what do you like to do for fun and what shows are you watching right now. When the conversation veered towards our occupations, she told me that she works for a company that helps women learn to take better care of their hair and their inner beauty. I assumed that she was a hairstylist. I casually mentioned that I personally hate doing my own hair and I do as little as possible to maintain it. She seemed to be interested in that part of the conversation and decided to give me some hair care tips. Honestly, I just kind of brushed them off because most people don't have experience with my hair type, so the advice they give typically does not work for me. Her advice was no different. I thought it might be a good time to move to the next step and go off app from Bumble to Instagram. Once I found her profile, I scrolled through her page. All of her pictures were of her makeup looks. Harmless enough. She had a link in her bio, which I figured was a link to her hairstyling website. The information on the site seemed very vague and there was no information about making appointments or about her services. There was a section titled, quote, "Let's make money," which linked to a Google Doc for a, quote, social media work opportunity. The Google Docs spoke about how the opportunity allowed her to build a brand and how she offers one-on-one mentorship. On the page, she said that if we worked with her, we would learn organic social media brand development and growth. It asked things like, how much money did I want to make from the opportunity? Did I want to buy the product, sell, or both? She also stated that the opportunity allowed her to work full-time from social media. I was confused by that last statement because in one of her Instagram stories, she said she worked a side hustle that allowed her to still do her nannying job. At this point, I was very confused about what she did for a living. Alarms were going off in my head. I hadn't started learning about the anti-MLM community yet, but I started feeling manipulated, so I never ended up following her. She didn't message me back on the app either. Many months later, I stumbled across her videos and they reminded me of an interaction that I'd had with Rose. I wanted to know if my instincts had been correct. She was still following me, so I went back to the website in her bio to see if I could recognize the name of the company and associate it with an MLM. I learned about many of the popular MLMs from watching your videos, and it also picked up tricks to know if someone was in an MLM. I assumed I had been mistaken because there was no mention of the company name anywhere. I noticed that she had her hair quiz on her website that mentioned Modern Nature. I had never heard of that company before, so I typed Modern Nature MLM into Google, and lo and behold, it was a part of Monat. I felt good knowing my intuition was correct. Yes, so Monat is short for Modern Nature. So something I've noticed that people are doing these days is they're not saying Monat because it has such a bad reputation. And if you Google the word Monat, you're likely going to come across things that don't paint the company in the best light and that are negative according to Monat reps themselves. So they're starting to kind of disguise what company they're with by calling it Modern Nature. It's the same exact company. Modern Nature is Monat, but it's just one extra step they can go to deceive you a little bit further for a little bit longer regarding what company they're with and finding all the negative information about it on the internet. People don't call Monat Modern Nature very often, and therefore people might be familiar with the name Monat but not understand that it's connected to the name Modern Nature and that they are one and the same. I feel like this is very sneaky and very deceptive, but I understand why the reps do that. It just sucks that one person I matched with and thought I was having a good conversation with might have been trying to pitch me an MLM. I'm really hoping that she was just a gal on Bumble who wanted friends and just so happened to be in an MLM and not a person who is using the app to find recruits from lonely girls like me looking for friends. Either way, I didn't want to take the risk. And what's sad about this is that I don't give her the benefit of the doubt, really. What I automatically assume is that she was likely using the app to find recruits. I've heard of that happening before, and it's a way for these people to build that friendship connection first to kind of prep and prime you for the day that that pitch eventually comes. I talk a lot about how the strategies have kind of shifted over the past few years. If you look at the way that people in MLMs tried to recruit back in 2019, 2020, it was super common for these mass copy and paste cold messages to be the way that people made the most connections and found the most recruits. The idea is that if you can just canvas a ton of people and send them all the same messages, that some of those people will reply, they'll engage with it, they might be interested in whatever opportunity you have. But now I would argue that with the rise of the anti-MLM movement and the awareness surrounding the cold messages or the hey hun messages and the fact that those have a really bad rap now, the strategies are shifting. People are moving more towards building these relationships and kind of prepping you and getting you to trust them and building some kind of foundation first. In other words, playing the long game so that you may be more likely to take them up on that pitch when they give it to you. Because we've kind of caught on to that old tactic of cold messages where you get a random DM from a stranger that says, hey hun, I have an opportunity for you. It's really easy to ignore it, to delete it, to block them, to not engage with it, which is why I'm not surprised that people in MLMs are now going to platforms like Bumble BFF to prey on unsuspecting people, to find recruits under the guise of a genuine friendship. And that's sick. That's sad. Especially when the targets are people like you who have just moved cross country, away from everything you've ever known and all of your friends and family back home, and you have a bit of social anxiety and it's hard to make friends. It's almost like those are vulnerabilities that MLM reps are hoping to come across on places like Bumble BFF. Like, let me find a vulnerable, lonely person who needs companionship, and I'm going to exploit that for my own financial gain. It's just so gross. What I love, though, is that you did a bit of your own research. research and you did some sleuthing and you went to her profile and you clicked on her link and things weren't adding up and it gave you a weird vibe and you avoided it. That's the best we can hope for, really. And I'll end by saying this, that if you go to someone's social media profile and it's not clear to you what company they're with or what they're involved in, and it seems like they're kind of dodging that question or using creative language or otherwise not being upfront with what the heck they're doing, that's a red flag. That should be avoided. It gives the impression that they have something to hide, which obviously we don't want any part of. Thank you for writing in your story. This one says, "Dear Hannah, I would like to remain anonymous. Congratulations on your pregnancy. I'm so incredibly happy for you and your husband. You previously shared my story in your MLM Horror Stories series, and I'm now writing to give you an update on what life has been like after leaving Monat. Unfortunately, I don't keep a good log of what stories are in which videos and things like that, so I can't say right here which exact video your story was in, but I found your original email and here's the recap. A friend of yours recommended the products to you. You tried them, you liked them, you kind of fell down the customer to rep pipeline, as I like to call it. You became a customer first, and then you were convinced to sign up as a market partner yourself and start selling the products. Once you signed up to be a market partner, you were added to Facebook groups and Zoom meetings, and you were love bombed by all these people welcoming you in. Initially, you got 4 of your friends and family to sign up under you really quickly, which gave you a boost of confidence, like maybe you could make this work. But then you realize that now there's quotas that you have to fulfill, and you have to be selling a certain amount of product a month, and your upline was really pressuring you so that she could keep her rank. And eventually, a year goes by, you realize this is not something you want to be a part of anymore. It's way too draining. It's affecting your mental health. It's not a good thing for you to be involved in. And at the time that you wrote this email, which was in April of 2022, nearly a year ago at this point, you had kind of left the email like, I'm closing my account for good, I'm stepping away, and I need to figure out how I'm going to talk to my VIP customers to help them terminate their memberships too. So now we're up to speed. Here's the update you have for us. For starters, the person who signed me up as part of their downline removed all Monat related posts from their social media and unfollowed me on Instagram. I found this strange because we were friends, or so I thought. I guess she probably wanted to detach herself from anything that reminded her of the company. Fair enough. I also wanted to make things right in any way I could. I contacted the majority of people I signed up as customers and explained to them why I was no longer a part of the company. I apologized and offered to help with canceling their customer accounts. I even paid for some of their cancellation fees since I didn't want them to spend any more money on this scammy business. I definitely was embarrassed because I went from promoting Monat all the time to completely removing any trace of me being an MLM hun from my social media, and I know that people noticed. But hey, at least people who follow me will no longer be terrified to ever receive a "Hey girl" message from my account. However, there was one customer who I wasn't comfortable reaching out to since we weren't friends anymore. I was hopeful that they would call Monat and cancel on their own since they did express in the past that they only became a customer to support me, and being that we weren't friends and there was no longer that reason to be a part of the company. A few months later, I received a message from this person demanding that I cancel their account because the products were causing significant hair loss. I felt horrible and apologized as I never would have wanted this to happen to anyone. I didn't think that the hair loss stories I saw online were true since I was using the products for so long and I didn't have this experience. I tried contacting the company for assistance, but Monat's policy is that the customer must be on the phone and verify their identity in order to cancel the account. So I sent them the phone number for customer service and all the information they would need to complete the cancellation. Although our friendship technically ended for reasons unrelated to the company, I can't help but think that their hair loss experience was the final straw for them since I was the one who sold it to them, and they were dealing with the hair loss during our friendship. It all just felt too coincidental and I still feel guilty about it to this day. Anyway, I'm just glad I'm no longer a part of Monat and that I'm now aware of the negative impact these companies can have on people's finances, health, and relationships. I hope that at some point I can learn to forgive myself for convincing people to join this scheme. Whenever people ask me what happened or why I quit, I tell them the truth, that being a part of an MLM is traumatic and I don't need to be a part of one in order to make money. Thank you for continuing to spread awareness. I appreciate this update because where we last left it was you were like, I'm gonna cancel my account, I'm getting out, I'm trying to figure out how to support my VIP customers and also getting out of this thing that I got them involved in. And so I love to have this update that you did go through with all of those things and that it is a closed chapter for you. And this piece about the hair loss is interesting because that's not something you were aware of at the time of your first email, that this actually did happen to people. And I think that's a great lesson here, that just because you don't have a certain experience with the products or just because you like them or they worked for you, doesn't mean that other people aren't having adverse effects to them. So So it's kind of interesting that that piece of it came to light after you left Monat, and then you learned after the fact that people really were losing their hair thanks to these products. I appreciate this update, and I'm so happy that you can kind of leave this behind you now. The door is closed, all of those loose ends are tied up. It sounds like you don't have anybody in your personal life still involved with it to this day. So all of that's really great. And you say here that you hope at some point you can forgive yourself for getting others involved in this, and I hope that you are able to forgive yourself. I don't think it's fair to beat yourself up over that, because I always say that people are just doing the best they can with the information they have at the time. And at the time, you didn't know what this was going to turn out to be. You didn't know that it was going to be a scammy business. You were doing the best you could with the knowledge you had, and I think that you even went above and beyond what you were probably expected to do after the fact by communicating with all these people about why you're leaving and how they might want to consider leaving too, and that you would help them out with canceling their accounts, and you would even pay to cancel their accounts. I think that you went above and beyond what most people quitting an MLM would do. So I think that you should really give yourself some grace here. Thank you for sending in this update, and congratulations for leaving Monat in your past. And with that, my friends, it's all the stories I have for you for this MLM Horror Stories video. Thanks to everyone who sent in a story, and again, if you have your own, go ahead and check out the description box. There are instructions there for how to send it to me. Additionally, thanks again to Paired for sponsoring today's video. You can click the link in the description box to get 25% off Paired Premium. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in my next one real soon.